Welcome to 5% Radio, where it's all about learning like no one else today so you can live like no one else tomorrow. Please be sure to share and subscribe. Hey guys, what is up, and welcome back to the show. Today is going to be episode number 38, and this will actually be the second part of my audiobook, G.O.O.D, Simplified, which is 10 proven principles to help you get out of debt and stay out of debt while still being able to have a life. So, that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed last week's episode, which was the introduction and then chapters 1 through 5, and let's dive into chapters 6 through 10. Principle 6, get out of debt and stay out of all consumer debt as soon as possible. Albert Einstein referred to compound interest as, quote, the eighth wonder of the world, quote. Compound interest is what makes debt so dangerous. Consider a 30-year mortgage on a $200,000 house at an interest rate of 3%. The owner of the house gets a loan from the bank, agrees to pay it back, and then pays the monthly bill, a mortgage, to do so. Although the house itself was sold to the individual for only $200,000, he or she will pay far more by the time 30 years is up. A 30-year mortgage on a $200,000 house with a 3% interest rate equals a monthly payment of $843.20. If you multiply the monthly payment by the amount of total payments, $843.20 by 12 by 30, the actual number comes out to be $3,552. This means the owner ended up paying about 50% more for the house than he or she originally thought they would pay. The hidden power of compound interest when working against you is crippling. When it's working for you, however, it is phenomenal. To use another example, consider the average credit card. A lot of people use credit cards nowadays to purchase everyday items that they could pay cash for if they were disciplined, but instead they choose to finance them. Consumer debt is defined as anything that is non-business debt: cars, personal loans, credit cards, mortgage, student loans, and any other kind of payment you make towards something you bought that was not required for a business. Our society is so addicted to consumer debt. Our society is as addicted to consumer debt as a little kid is to the next piece of candy. The average person chooses to pay the minimum on their credit card, looking only at how small the amount is for the monthly payment. When added up, though, that small monthly amount equals something much, much more than they originally thought they would pay. Let's look at this in action. Say you have a $2,000 credit balance, meaning on a credit card, with an annual 18% interest rate. If you pay the minimum payment of 2% of the balance, in this case, $40, it would take 289 months to pay off. That's just over 24 years. Again, your credit card balance was only $2,000. But at the end of 289 months, if you had only paid the minimum, you will have paid over $4,300 in interest payments. Outside of the fact that you were overpaying for everything you buy when you finance, there's another horrific factor. Because the bank, finance company, loaned you the money to purchase an item, technically it is their item and you are paying them to, quote, own, quote, aka rent it. We know this to be true because in the event you were no longer willing to make the monthly payment, they have the right to take back the asset. If you were making monthly payments on a car and you default on the loan, they repo the car. If you have paid on a 30-year mortgage for 25 years and suddenly are not able to pay anymore, you will lose your house. Essentially, those who are in debt are renting a lifestyle from banks and financial companies. In the case of the person who paid on a 30-year mortgage for 25 years, 300 months out of 360 months, to put it another way, using the number we used earlier, they would have paid $252,960 on the home already. Because of the loan being set up for 30 years with 3% interest rate, defaulting on the loan would result in a loss of the house. The homeowner had already paid $52,960 over the value of the house when they agreed to buy it and started making payments. But because the bank technically owns the house, the person is out of both their money and the home. All this aside, think about the money you could have been saving if you were not making monthly payments. It may not seem like a big deal to have a car payment, a mortgage, student loans, credit card payments, or other small personal loans, but looking at things long-term tells a different story. If you have a mortgage of $600 per month, one car payment of $300, two credit cards at $30 a month, a student loan at $70 per month, you are spending $1,030 per month in debt payments. Due to the fact that this is, quote, normal, quote, most of us think nothing of it. In reality, though, imagine having no debt and saving or investing most of the same $1,030 every month on top of your regular 10% savings. How fast would your finances change? Eliminating debt payments is one of the most beneficial things you can do financially. The most common method used, due to its effectiveness, is the debt roll-down method. This extremely simple method can help you get out of debt faster than anything else if you utilize it. Once out of debt, you can begin saving enough money to pay cash for all emergencies and eventually pay cash for things such as cars and houses if you also focus on ways of making more money over time. Pay off all consumer debt ASAP and avoid it like the plague in the future. The next thing to do is start saving the money that you were putting towards payments every month. Set up specific accounts for long-term savings, emergency funds, and targeted savings, such as those put in place for a new car, home, renovation, vacation, etc. Principle number 7. Never finance anything that depreciates. Every time something is purchased that depreciates, the buyer loses money immediately. A brand new car depreciates somewhere between 9 to 11% the second you drive it off the lot. Simply put, that sucks. The vehicle, although it has no more mileage, virtually no wear and tear and no damages, is now worth roughly 10% less. Assuming the average value of the car to be $30,000, the second you leave the car lot, it is now worth $27,000, even though you will pay well over $30,000 for it. This is what is known as being, quote, upside down, quote, in a loan, meaning you owe more than you can get back out of the item itself. Anytime you buy something that is not an investment, if at all possible, choose the one payment plan. Pay cash. This may mean that you have to wait longer to purchase something than you would like to. In the end, though, you will be much better off financially. If you purchased an ATV or a jet ski and chose to finance it, that item now has the potential to wreck you financially. Robert Kiyosaki in his book Rich Dad Poor Dad teaches you, quote, your assets will feed you and your liabilities will eat you. Quote, anything purchased on credit has the ability to kill you financially. Think of your finances as an organism. If the organism consumes more fuel than it burns, it stays alive. If the organism consumes less fuel than it needs to survive, it dies. It's a simple mathematical equation of intake versus output. In the event that you are no longer able to pay for what you purchased, the monthly payment is still required because you agree to the terms of the loan. Even if the finance company takes back the item you purchased, you can still owe the remaining amount. How many times have you heard someone say they need a new car, but they can't afford to buy it due to one of these two things? Number one, they don't have the money to pay cash. Or number two, even if they traded in the car they currently have, they still owe more than it's worth. Choosing to spend money on things that depreciate is 100% up to you, and although the statement is harsh, in the words of a financial expert I study on an ongoing basis, quote, I like to see that you have toys because it tells me you're wealthy. If you finance them, though, it tells me you're undisciplined. Quote, it may seem unfathomable to have to pay cash for everything you buy that is not an investment asset. Over time, though, the discipline of saving and paying cash for things becomes more and more second nature. Eventually, the idea of financing anything outside of necessities to run and grow your business, which is a difficult topic entirely, becomes totally foreign. Continually strengthen your discipline muscle over time, delay your gratification, and create a habit of saving money to purchase things rather than buying them up front and paying for them over time. Telling yourself no now so you can say yes tomorrow is well worth it. Principle number 8. Go into business for yourself. In his book, The Cash Flow Quadrant, Robert Kiyosaki taught that there are 4 primary ways to earn income. Number 1, get paid as an employee. Number 2, become self-employed. Number 3, own a business or business system that pays you. And number 4, become an investor. By investor, I do not mean someone who day trades or occasionally plays in the stock market. I mean a professional investor, someone who can lose over $250,000 and it not affect their dinner plan, so to speak. Being in business for yourself brings with it several tax advantages, as well as the advantage of a significant increase in earning potential. Since your ability to earn money as an employee is 100% fixed up to your employer, it is very limited. There are exceptions to this, such as straight commission sales jobs or base pay plus commission sales jobs, but for the vast majority of employees, these types of earning opportunities are not the norm. Most employees are facing cost of living raises over the lifetime of their career. Between taxes and inflation, more often than not, people find themselves stuck, if not going slightly backwards. I can distinctly remember a friend of mine getting a small raise at her job as a manager, only to lose money in the end due to the raise pushing her up into the next tax bracket. Despite being an amazing employee, the raise came with almost no additional benefits. In addition, it required the same amount of work or more when compared to what she was doing prior to the raise. On top of all this, as far as security is concerned, the employee is in the riskiest position. Although business owners may fail financially and are taking on more risk in the form of investment, a person whose sole source of income is their job has no security. No matter how much you make or how long you have been with the company, there's always the potential to lose your position, get a pay cut, or get let go due to the company going under. Through no fault of their own, countless people lose their jobs every year because of company decisions that had nothing to do with them. I myself have been on the receiving end of this, and it is a brutal wake-up call to give your best to an employer day in and day out, only to be let go at a moment's notice. The employee quadrant offers very little tax benefits and overall offers the worst financial upside available, all things considered. Choosing to go own a business for oneself, if at all possible, presents a person with increased earning potential as well as the ability to be paid based on performance rather than position. If a person does not want to perform and would rather stay in a situation that provides guaranteed income as long as they meet the bare minimum standards in their profession, by all means, do not go into business for yourself. If, however, you are willing to perform, take calculated risk, make wise choices, and steady your craft continually with the intention of becoming the best you can be, as if your life depends on it, go into business for yourself. The average self-employed person out-earns the average employee and has the freedom to dictate their own schedule, a little more so based on the industry or type of work they choose to go into. If you are considering going into business for yourself, do your due diligence. Study different industries based on monthly overhead cost, average profit margins, skill sets needed, initial equipment investment cost, survivability, and many other factors. Another important consideration when going into business for yourself is not only how much money will you make, but what you will have to do repeatedly to make it. More on this in my other resources. Remember, you are picking a profession. This is not a new hobby, nor is it a college major where you can take years to study without having to work and switch fields if it gets too boring. This is a serious decision and should be treated as such. If you're a performer who knows that you either already have what it takes or can learn to have what it takes, going into business for yourself is highly recommended when looking at it from a wealth building perspective. People are not born entrepreneurs or employees. Your educational background does not matter. You do not need letters before your name or after your name, doctor or PhD, for example, to be successful. As we discussed in principle number 3, investing in yourself should be one of your top priorities. If you own a business or are a self-employed individual, this is an absolute must for you in order to have continual success and consistent growth in your business. Principle number 9. Be more concerned about being wealthy than looking wealthy. This pitfall has often been referred to under the umbrella terms of, quote, status, quote, or, quote unquote, keeping up with the Joneses, and refers to the idea that many people want to look successful without truly being successful. This is a common practice nowadays. We have all seen people driving expensive cars, dressed in the nicest clothes, spending tons of money every month on whatever they want, or talking about their super luxurious vacation they just took. Their social media feed looks like they've got everything figured out financially, but behind the scenes, that's rarely the case. People who live the status lifestyle often desire to look successful without actually doing what it takes to be successful. They are financed to the hilt and have to scramble month in and month out to keep up with their overinflated lifestyle. The financial life of a person who lives this way is one tug on the bobber away from going under financially. I knew a guy that used to make over $250,000 a month. Most of us will look at that number and think you'd be set for life, right? Shockingly, this is not so. The guy had an income interruption and months later lost basically everything. His big fancy home, his expensive vehicles, and his lavish lifestyle were all dependent on the next month's income. Ideally, you want to live on money that you made yesterday as soon as possible, with the eventual goal being to live on money that you made months or years ago. This is true financial security. No matter what happens, you have enough income to pay for your lifestyle for years to come. Earlier, when we discussed budgeting, I mentioned living on 70% or less of your income as soon as possible. Once you reach a 50% expense level for your lifestyle, meaning you are living on only half of what you bring in, you will be able to save or invest 6 months of security each year. This means every passing month brings you closer to being truly wealthy rather than just looking wealthy. Choosing to live in such a way that you look successful before you are successful ends in financial calamity. Sure, it may be nice to drive a nicer car now and live in a bigger house, but at what cost to your future? We have already covered the danger of financing things that depreciate, not sticking to a budget, and living with consumer debt. Live within your means as much as possible. You are not on your way to being wealthy if you make $400,000 a year and spend $350,000. If wealth is measured in the amount of months that you could live your current lifestyle with absolutely no income, how wealthy are you currently? A big lifestyle may look enticing on social media, in advertising, and on TV, but the reality is very few people who present themselves as being rich actually are. Decide now that you will focus more on producing true financial security and true wealth before caring what you look like. To prove this point, I'd like to share a story of a businessman that I've learned a lot from. While sitting on a plane, flying coach, this multi-millionaire, very wealthy guy, glanced down at his tennis shoes to notice how terrible they looked. And he tells the story from stage. He laughed pretty hard because he knew the odds were that he was by far the wealthiest person on the plane that day. Because he had nothing to prove and did not care about looking rich as much as he cared about who he actually was and what he was doing with his life, which is running a highly successful business that massively affects people's lives in a positive way, it didn't matter. Even funnier, this terrible-looking pair of tennis shoes was his only pair of tennis shoes. He did not feel the need to have more than one pair since they still serve their purpose. Be more concerned about actual success than the appearance of success, and you will go far. Principle number 10, the 24-hour rule. This principle requires minimal discipline when you have a little money and may seem increasingly ridiculous as you acquire more money. It's the 24-hour rule. In essence, this principle just says that you will wait 24 hours to make a financial decision involving any amount over, insert your number of choice here. I can tell you personally that my current number is $50. It will not be changing anytime soon. Does that seem low? Absolutely. The whole point is to save yourself money by limiting the amount of emotional, spur-of-the-moment purchases you make. Look around at your house and in your garage or other storage areas and think about the amount of stuff you, quote, had to have, quote, right then and there. Much of it is now collecting dust, or worse yet, you regret buying it because it turned out to be a piece of junk. Do yourself a favor and stop making on-the-spot buying decisions. Let's look at this principle in the context of buying a car. Used, new, doesn't matter. Say you're at a car lot. You've saved up the cash and are planning on buying a car very soon. You decide to go shopping and look at various options. You did not go out buying, you went shopping. There is a big difference. You test drive the car you want, decide on the model, trim, engine size, interior, and all other options. You relay these desires to the salesman who tells you that the exact car you have described is on the lot. You want a red one that fits the description you gave the salesman. He tells you, quote, "It's the last red one we have on the lot," quote, and begins to go into his plastic, "What can we do today to get you into a new car?" pitch that he's used so far on every customer this week. You can make one of two choices at this point. You can choose to break this rule, which shows a lack of discipline since you did not decide you were going to buy a vehicle that day, or you can go home, sleep on it, and then go back and make the purchase tomorrow knowing that you were absolutely positive this vehicle is the one you want to purchase. You did not buy it because the car salesman pressured you with FOMO, fear of missing out. You thought it through, made a decision, and then took action. Only you can decide the amount you will not spend for any reason on the spot. To put things into perspective, I know a couple who has a net worth of well over $50 million, and their number, personally, is $500. They do not exceed that number. They can buy just about whatever they want with cash, but they live true financial principles with no exceptions. Pick a number and stick with it. If you have debt and little money in the bank, the number should be small. If you have no debt and a decent chunk of change in the bank, you can still keep the number small. The point of the principle is to remove overwhelming emotions from your buying habits once and for all by making one choice one time and managing it forever. Properly implementing the 24-hour rule in your finances will help you make fewer poor financial choices and in the long run will save you more money.